Video we're going to discuss the economic problem of scarcity. Your teacher will have given you a handout that looks just like this, and we're going to talk about it and fill in some of the blanks. In your last money class, you would have played the scarcity game where you were given bags of resources and you had to make items that represented food, shelter, clothing, and education. None of you had all of the resources to make those, and you needed to use trade to manage to get what you needed. So the items that you used were scarce, and you had to place some kind of value in them. So by deciding what you could trade for the things that you needed, you managed to distribute the resources well enough for most of you to get the things you needed. Now, in this video, we're going to go through this note, and you're going to be able to fill some things in and colour in as you go along. Okay, so the idea of scarcity. This is one of the big economics problems that we discuss. So any item is scarce if there is not enough for everyone to have as much as they want. You can't just go out and have as many cars or clothes or anything like that, because not everyone can do that. We will run out. If it was all just there and you could just take what you wanted, it would be a really uneven distribution. There's not enough for everyone to have as much, so we need to find a way to distribute it. For example, if I was to just dump a pile of lollies in the middle of the classroom, there'd be no way to make sure everyone got the same amount. The people closest would grab as much as they could. People further away might miss out. So that's not very fair. That's why we have prices on things, to find a way that we can share them out so people have to make decisions about which things they want. Economics is the study of how those resources are used and how we're going to share those out. Now, if we think about the main things that are scarce, some of those examples, we've got resources, and a couple of those are food, that is actually a bread made in a bakery, just a fairly stylized picture, water, time, and skills. Now, it's not just food and water that are scarce, it's anything that is created is scarce, because people have to put their time into it, their skills, and the scarce resources. There's only so much land, there's only so much gold, wood, all of those things are limited. Now, with food, we need to make decisions about what to produce and how we're going to produce those things. Do we need to produce organics or use genetically modified plants that might produce more, but then there's some other issues along with those. Water, we need to make sure that there's enough fresh water for everybody to have to drink to keep them healthy. There's also problems about pollution in water, places that dump sewage and flow off from farms and that kind of thing into the water. There's the microplastics that come from our washing and our production systems that go into the fish and then come back into our food supply. So those are some of the things that we need to think about in economics, is how do we manage that water? Time, even the richest person in the world only has 24 hours in a day. We all have a limited number of years. We've got to make the most of the time. We've got to choose every day how we're going to use that time and what we're going to do in it. Are we going to spend it binge watching Netflix or training for netball? Those are the kinds of decisions that you need to make. And then the last one, skills. Partly because of time, partly because of the things that we are good at, we all have a limited amount of skills that we can do. We have time only to practice a few skills. You can't train to be doctors and lawyers and engineers all at once. One person needs to make a choice about what things they're going to put their time into and develop those skills. And then now if we come down to the big economics question, we've got, what are we going to produce in our economy? How are we going to produce it? So the what, we're going to make food, are we going to make resources to build houses? Are we going to spend our time trying to fly to Mars? How are we going to produce that? Are we going to be organic? Are we going to use different types of sprays or genetic modification, that kind of thing? And who are we going to produce it to? How are we going to distribute the little that we have to the people who either want it or need it? So those are the three big questions that we look at. Now I've got some definitions that you need to know about. Just three at the moment. We've got scarcity. Remember, that is that there's not enough for everyone to have as much as they want. We have to find a way of sharing that to allow people to have access to it. Choice is making a decision about how to use those scarce resources. And opportunity cost, this is quite a big concept, is the thing that you give up when you make a choice. For example, if you decided to make your lunch at home today instead of bringing $5 along to the canteen and buying something, the opportunity cost of making your lunch at home was that you couldn't have a bought lunch. But on the other side of the decision, you've probably got something nice and healthy that you made for not very much cost, and so you get to keep the money that you might have had to spend on buying lunch. Okay, so take some time to go over those notes, make sure you understand them. You can highlight in some of the outlines to help you think about it as you're going through it, and then stick them in your book so you've got it as a reference. Thanks for listening.